Awakening is not madness. It is not depression. It is the quiet revolution of your soul remembering what it has always known. One day, without warning, the things that used to matter, success, approval, even drama, begin to lose their grip on you. Conversations that once sparked excitement now feel empty. Goals that once drove you forward suddenly seem meaningless. At first, you may wonder, am I losing myself? But in truth, you are finding yourself. This is the first whisper of awakening, the moment when you stop clinging to the role of main character and begin to sense the observer within. It can feel strange, sometimes even lonely, like you are standing just outside of your own life. But this is not disconnection. It is the birth of a new frequency, a recalibration of consciousness that no longer fits into the cage of conditioning. You may notice it in small ways. Walking through your day, you suddenly feel as if you're watching a dream unfold. Thoughts rise in your mind, yet they sound less like truths and more like echoes of old programming. Emotions surge, but instead of drowning in them, you notice how they move through you like passing weather. And then comes the most startling realization. Your identity, your name, your past, your roles, are not who you are. They are costumes you've worn for so long that you forgot you could take them off. This isn't spiritual escapism. It is a return. A deeper intelligence, ancient and timeless, begins to stir inside you. For the first time, you feel the separation between what you are not and what you truly are. Mystics across centuries have called this awakening. Quantum thinkers like Amit Goswami describe it as the recognition that consciousness does not live in the body. The body lives inside consciousness. And when that truth dawns, reality itself begins to bend. You question what you once accepted without resistance. You wonder if the choices you've made were ever truly yours, or if they were given to you by culture, family, and fear. It feels as though you are walking between two worlds, the world you were taught to see, and a new, unseen world emerging from within you, a world woven not of matter, but of mind. As you begin to awaken, the world around you may start to shimmer with strange coincidences. A thought arises, and almost instantly, life seems to echo it back to you. You look at the clock and see repeating numbers. A friend calls you at the exact moment you were thinking of them. Time itself begins to stretch and contract, as if reality is whispering in riddles. These aren't random accidents. They are signals, proof that your inner field is becoming more alive, more receptive, more attuned to the frequencies that weave reality together. But here's the paradox. While your inner world transforms, the outer world may look exactly the same. Your job is unchanged, your daily routines still unfold, your relationships may appear ordinary. And yet, you have shifted. This is the threshold, an invisible in-between space where the old version of you is dissolving, but the new consciousness has not yet fully landed. It's tempting to retreat, to close your eyes, to go back to the comfort of the familiar. But you can't. Once truth has been seen, it cannot be unseen. Once the veil has lifted, it never falls back. This phase may feel confusing, even uncomfortable, yet it is profoundly sacred, because here, in the stillness of not knowing, your quantum consciousness takes root. Not through memorizing books or clinging to teachings, but through raw experience, through the unraveling of your old identity, through the tension of uncertainty, and through the quiet discovery that you no longer need certainty at all. Your mind was never designed merely to survive reality. It was built to shape it. And once you glimpse that truth, nothing is the same again. Since childhood, you've been told a story. That the solid world outside you is primary. That matter produces mind. And that consciousness is nothing more than a byproduct of the brain. It's the narrative of materialism. The idea that life is just atoms colliding in the void, and somehow, along the way, awareness emerged by accident. But what if that story is backwards? What if the external world is not the source of your experience, but the reflection of it? What if mind is not a side effect of matter, but the blueprint from which matter is born? The traditional scientific model struggles when it reaches the mysteries of life. Observation, creativity, intuition, the very ability to choose. These qualities cannot be explained by a universe of cold particles. And this is precisely where quantum physics begins to shake the old paradigm. In the quantum realm, reality does not exist as fixed and solid. Particles are not things. They are clouds of probability, waves of potential, until someone looks. Only when a conscious observer interacts does the wave collapse into matter, into something tangible, into what we call real. This isn't mystical speculation. It is physics, and it strikes at the root of materialism. The observer cannot be separated from the observed. Consciousness is not an afterthought. Consciousness is the starting point. Thinkers like Amit Goswami and many others go further. They suggest that consciousness doesn't just influence reality, it creates it. Awareness is the canvas upon which the universe paints itself. The material world is not the cause of your mind, it is the expression of it. And once you begin to live from this perspective, every moment becomes sacred. Every thought, every choice, every intention is no longer invisible. It is a seed, vibrating with the power to collapse possibility into form. Your mind is not trapped inside the skull, nor is it bound by the limits of the body. It is the vast field from which all form arises. Imagine for a moment that you are not a traveler moving through time, but that time itself is moving through you. Your body, your story, even your entire timeline exists within the space of your awareness. You are not a thing observing other things. You are the field looking at itself, the canvas and the painter, the dreamer and the dream. And when this shift takes root, when you realize your consciousness is not confined to neurons, but stretches far beyond them, the world begins to loosen its grip. The rigid rules of cause and effect soften. Time feels elastic, synchronicities multiply, as if the universe itself is leaning closer to listen. Life stops happening to you and begins to move through you. Choices no longer feel like puzzles for the intellect. They feel like alignments, like resonance, like stepping into the rhythm that was waiting for you all along. Yet here is the paradox. The more awake you become, the less your mind can make sense of it. Awakening cannot be captured by thought, because thought is too small to hold it. It isn't an idea. It's a frequency, a state, a return to the ground of being itself. This is why life may appear unchanged on the surface, yet feels radically different inside. You witness people repeating old scripts, but you are no longer cast in their play. You listen to conversations saturated with fear or ego, but your body does not contract. You are unplugging, not as rebellion, but as remembrance. You are remembering that you are not the result of creation. You are creation becoming aware of itself. This awareness isn't reserved for the few. It isn't special or elitist. It is natural. It's your birthright. Yet in a world addicted to distraction, claiming it becomes an act of revolution. Because once you step into it, you stop seeking. You no longer live as though you're missing something. You realize you were never broken, never incomplete, only unaware of the infinite current that has always been within you. In this process, the scaffolding of identity begins to collapse. Not because you've failed, but because survival masks are no longer required. Your name, your roles, your beliefs, once so solid, start to feel hollow, like props from a story you no longer believe. It can feel disorienting, even frightening, because the walls you leaned on for so long dissolve into mist. But this collapse is not the end. It is the unraveling, and unraveling is essential. A rigid, programmed self cannot share space with awakened consciousness. Their frequencies cannot coexist. The ego resists. It panics. It whispers, "You're losing control. Something's wrong. You don't know who you are anymore." But nothing is wrong. What's happening is the mask slipping, and behind it, your true face is emerging. The ego itself is not an enemy. It was built to protect you in a world that told you who to be. It collected the voices of parents, teachers, culture, religion, and trauma, and stitched them into an identity capable of surviving. But survival is not the same as living. And as your consciousness expands, you begin to see that the old map no longer matches the territory. Thought patterns that once defined you feel foreign. Beliefs you never chose reveal themselves as borrowed. It's like waking up inside a house you've lived in for years and realizing none of the furniture belongs to you. This is why awakening often feels like grief. Not because you are dying, but because the illusion is. The persona you carried like a badge dissolves, leaving behind vast open space. In that space, you begin to watch your body without being trapped in it. Emotions pass through you without swallowing you whole. Thoughts continue, but instead of obeying them, you observe them like lines in a script someone else wrote. And as you watch, you recognize a deeper truth. I am not this voice. I am the awareness that hears it. Mystics across centuries have pointed here, and now quantum thinkers echo the same. You are not merely flesh and thought. You are consciousness itself, momentarily localized in this body, yet never limited to it. The more you embody this truth, the weaker the old self becomes. Not because you fight it, but because you stop feeding it with belief. Illusion starves when awareness shines. Awakening is rarely thunder and lightning. Most often, it arrives like a quiet dawn. You wake up one morning and realize you no longer crave arguments. The need to prove yourself feels empty. The endless chase for approval dissolves into silence. Control begins to look like smoke in your hands, and suddenly, peace matters more than winning. In this stillness, the deeper self, the one not bound by memory, fear, or biology, begins to rise. This self doesn't need a story to justify its existence. It doesn't cling to outcomes or shrink before the unknown. It simply is. Raw presence, pure awareness, a current of power untouched by circumstance. And when this becomes your natural state, reality starts to shift. Because the universe doesn't bend to the demands of the ego. It resonates with the clarity of the consciousness behind it. So if lately you've felt lost, if your identity feels like it's crumbling, if life seems to be falling apart, you are not breaking down. You are breaking open. The old program is dissolving. The illusion is fading. And what remains is who you have always been. The conscious creator remembering itself. There comes a sacred turning point in this journey when the question changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead whisper, "What am I creating now?" For so long, Life may have felt like something to endure, something happening around you or against you. Even mindfulness might have felt like just watching, observing, surviving. But awakening is not meant to end at observation. At some point, you must step into your true seat, not as a victim of circumstance, but as the creator of coherence. In the quantum field, observation is not passive. The way you look at energy decides what it becomes. If you look through fear, you call more fear into form. If you look through clarity, you stabilize peace. Every belief you carry, every emotion you hold, every story you repeat, these are not just thoughts, they are blueprints. They are signals that the field translates into experience. Life doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you are. This is where you stop living reactively and begin living creatively. Not by forcing reality into your will, but by aligning so consistently with truth that reality has no choice but to follow. You begin to feel the rhythm, the coincidences that arrive like clockwork, the phone call at the exact moment you were thinking of someone, the flash of insight that drops in from nowhere. Time stretches, collapses, rearranges itself around your frequency. Life doesn't happen against you. It starts to move with you. And this is the deeper secret. The world was never something to chase. It was always a mirror. The field does not reflect your intentions. It reflects your identity. You don't draw in what you want. You magnetize what you are coherent with. So the real question becomes, who are you being right now? Not who you were yesterday, not who you'll be once you've healed, but in this very breath. What signal are you sending? Because you cannot collapse a new timeline while clinging to an old vibration. You cannot birth clarity from confusion or abundance from lack. The field doesn't bend to effort. It answers to frequency, and the moment you align your inner state with your chosen reality, without waiting for proof, without begging for validation, the shift begins. That's when you finally see. The observer was never just watching. The observer was always the creator. If these words resonate with you, if you feel you're no longer content to simply watch your life but are ready to shape it, then let your being declare it. I am not just a mind. I am the field. When such a declaration rises from a place of knowing, it does more than echo. It reorganizes the fabric of reality itself. But what does it look like to live this truth in everyday life? Not just while meditating or feeling inspired, but in the ordinary, messy, and sometimes overwhelming moments. This is the real integration. When awakening stops being an insight you recall and becomes the way you move through the world. Suddenly, your reactions slow down. Not because you're trying to force calm, but because the old triggers no longer land. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and instead of rage, you breathe. An old wound is pressed, and instead of collapsing, you notice. Emotions still rise, but they don't run your life anymore, because you're no longer responding from the self built to survive. You're responding from the self that remembers, I am not the storm. I am the sky that holds it. And this shift touches everything. Conversations become deeper because you are no longer speaking to defend or impress. You are listening with presence. Relationships evolve because you stop demanding others fill the emptiness you've already met within yourself. Even your work transforms. Tasks that once felt heavy flow with new clarity, not because they changed, but because you changed. You've stopped pushing against life, and life has begun to move with you. From the outside, it may look like nothing's different. You still go to work. You still meet friends. You still live your life. But inside, everything has shifted because your compass is no longer external, it is vibrational, it is internal. You no longer ask, is this the right decision? You ask, is this the right frequency? You stop chasing outcomes and start sensing alignment. You trust intuition more than fear, and in doing so, you collapse new realities, not by force, but through coherence. This doesn't mean life stops challenging you. Resistance still appears, but now you relate to it differently. You recognize that nothing is random. Every obstacle, every delay, every confrontation is feedback from the field. And if you don't like the reflection, you don't fight the mirror. You change the signal. This is the radical responsibility of living consciously. Realizing that while you cannot control every event, you are always the source of the frequency you bring to it. That frequency becomes your portal. Quantum pioneers often remind us that every observation is a choice. Every moment is a collapse of possibility into form. The real question is no longer, will life align with me, but will I align with the truth of what I already am? And here lies the heart of the journey. Quantum consciousness is not a state you visit. It's a state you stabilize. Many people touch it, in meditation, in moments of wonder, in flashes of inspiration. But the challenge is not touching it. The challenge is living from it. Awakening is not the final destination. It is the doorway. Stabilization is the path. This is why the space between awakening and embodiment feels so fragile. You may return to familiar environments, old patterns, or relationships that pull you back toward who you used to be. If you're not anchored in your new frequency, the gravity of the old one can reclaim you. And so this stage demands patience, discipline, and tenderness. Stabilization means no longer dipping into presence only when life is peaceful, but holding it even when chaos swirls around you. It means your nervous system no longer waits for the world to calm down before it can settle. Instead, it becomes the calm. It becomes the signal. It becomes the center of gravity through which a new reality begins to unfold.